Good morning. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. And it is an honor to welcome to the show. We're going to jump right in it. Gerald Celente. He developed a globalnomic methodology to identify, track, forecast, and manage trends. He's a political atheist, unencumbered by political dogma, rigid ideology, or conventional wisdom. Celente, whose motto is think for yourself, that's a great motto, observe and analyzes the current events, forming future trends for what they are, not for what he wants them to be. Celente owns 3 pre-revolutionary stone buildings on the most historic corner in America where the seeds of democracy are sown. Colonial Kingston, New York's first capital. Gerald Celente, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So there is a lot going on in the financial news right now. The stock market last week had a rough week. Are we seeing, because of rising interest rates, some global earthquakes a little bit? What's going on?
Well, it was one of our top trends, market shock, and we put those out in December for the coming year. So it was one of our top 2018 trends. The world can't take higher interest rates. And all this talk that we kept hearing about trade wars and tariffs, and we said, no, that's not going to do anything. It's a small number when you're looking at even the 200 and some odd billion dollars in tariffs compared to what the Chinese GDP is. It's interest rates. The entire stock market boom, this 10-year boom, was created with zero interest rate and negative interest rate policy around the world. And quantitative easing. 2 things, by the way, that they didn't teach you in Economics 101 at graduate school. I mean, they just flooded the world with cheap money. And then you look at the tax cuts that Trump put in place, and we're looking at record stock buybacks. And that should come as no surprise, because that's what happened when George Bush did it back in the early 2000s. Most of the money went into stock buybacks. So it's the liquidity issue. And it's global. It's bigger than the United States. You look what's going on in China. You just saw the Chinese car sales. Have nothing to do with trade fears. You know, people buy cars. They don't care what's going on with a trade war. And it just saw its biggest drop in 7 years. So it's a global slowdown.
So how big a slowdown do you think? What are the trends showing?
Well, it's going to depend again on the interest rate issue. You know, Trump does have a lot of power. The president does have a lot of power in dealing with the chair of the Federal Reserve, especially the head of the Treasury Department, Secretary of Treasury. So they could insert some pressure. And Trump's in the real estate business. I mean, he knows what goes on. If interest rates go up, real estate sales go down. This is the guy's whole life. So he knows the danger of interest rates rising too fast. And then let's put this into perspective. What do we have? An overnight Fed fund rate at between 2 and 2.25? And after all of these years since the panic of '08, and when you adjust that for inflation, you're still really in negative territory. So even with that little bit of rate increases, it's putting this pressure on the global economy because there are other elements to it. As we know, the stronger the dollar gets, the weaker those global currencies go. And what do they owe the emerging markets? $63 trillion plus in debt borrowed on cheap dollars. Now they have to pay it back with their declining dollars. Oh, and there's that other one called rising oil prices. And you're out there in California. There's places out there where you got $4 a gallon out there.
It's crazy.
Now go to India. India imports 80% of its energy. Its rupee is at an all-time low against the dollar. What's that going to do to their economy?
Oh, my goodness. So this, and we're seeing what feels like more unrest globally. I mean, increasingly more. You know, we're looking at what's happening in Yemen that nobody's talking about, and you know, we just had that I think is an assassination in at the Saudi consulate in Turkey. You know, is all of this related?
Well, yes, it is, because if war breaks out in the Middle East, worse than it is now, Aaron, particularly with Syria and Iran, we're going to see, we're forecasting if oil prices spike to $100 a barrel or above, we're going to have a collapse of both the global economies and the equity markets. They cannot take it. And again, we're looking at oil now around $80 a barrel. It was around 85. And if there's destabilization in the Middle East, again, the markets can't take it. When you look at the tax cuts, and this is according to the Tax Policy Center, so I'm not making this stuff up. When you look at the tax cuts that the average American got from the Trump tax cuts, more than half of that's been eaten up just in rising oil prices, gasoline prices.
But didn't gasoline prices have to come up? I mean, they were really low.
Well, again, it's a question of are they or are they not, whether or not they have to. I mean, look at interest rates. This is unprecedented. Once upon a time, people had a thing called bank accounts. They put their money in the bank and they got interest on it, and they'd retire to Florida, so this is unprecedented, these kind of interest rates. It's a war against the savers, actually.
So what are you to do? I mean, if you're a family, people are listening on their way to work, sitting on the LA freeways, sitting in traffic. What do you do to protect your family, your investments, your livelihood?
Well, we don't give financial advice. We're trend forecasters, so only speaking in that element. Well, I believe we had forecasted early this year that gold prices would bottom out at around $1,200 an ounce. And we believe they're at the bottom now. Now they're flirting around the $1,230 mark. And when there's times of economic instability and unrest, that's when gold is the ultimate safe haven asset. And we believe there's going. And by the way, our magazine, the Trends Journal, we don't take advertisements. So we're not. We don't say anything for any advertisers or any of that. There's no advertising at all. And so when I'm saying gold, we're not pushing anybody. I just want to make that really clear. And but in this time of economic and geopolitical uncertainty, we believe gold is the best safe haven asset to consider. You're also going to start seeing more and more a decline in real estate. You go to New York and you walk up and down, Soho, the West Village, Broadway, all around. And there's for rent signs everywhere you look, commercial properties. And it's overbuilt, and it's happening around the country in more of the prolific areas. So we believe the real estate market's at the top right now. And again, if interest rates go up and the millennials can't afford to buy homes as it is right now, you have record numbers living with their families. With interest rates even at 5%, and now that you're looking at 30-year mortgages, and that's going to put a damper on a lot of the real estate market. So we think it's a time to watch, look, and listen, particularly what's going on around the world and oil prices, and really get. You mentioned before the war in Yemen's going on. You ask people about Yemen, and they'll ask, hey, "What's a Yemen?"
Yeah, they don't. They don't even know it's a country, let alone where it is.
Exactly. And by the way, it's the worst humanitarian crisis on the planet, according to the UN, and the worst famine affecting a nation in 100 years. That just came out today, according to the UN, and nobody cares about it. And so now you have these crises going on that people are tuned out of. So we're telling people is really you better start tuning into information such as, On the Brink morning show, where you're giving people solid information so they can make decisions and learn what's going on. Hey, what's Stormy Daniels doing this week?
God, who cares?
That's what I mean, that I even know the name.
Yeah, it's like, please tell me why that's news. It's really not.
Yeah, it's junk news. And so what we're saying to people, we're in a very critical time now. Here's our assessment. We believe that between now and March is going to make the big difference. How things play, this is the period we're looking at. And if interest rates keep going up and the markets keep going down, you have to look at retail sales at Christmas time. They just came out with the retail sales, with consumer sales just yesterday. You're looking at a 2-year low of people spending money in bars and restaurants. That's a good indicator of a slowdown.
Yeah, slowdown, yep. Yep. So we are out of time. Let people know how they can subscribe to your Trends Journal and follow you on social media, etc.
Oh, just go to trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com, and of course there's Gerald Celente, Twitter and Facebook. And again, this is a very important time for people to stay on top of the news and get ahead of the trends.
Pay attention, people. So, Gerald Celente, thank you so much. It was enlightening and always very interesting to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, bye-bye. It's time for a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan, do you have any beer in the fridge?
Nah, I thought you got some.
The game starts in 5 minutes.
And you drank the last beer at midnight on Friday.
I wish there was a place that delivered beer.
Yes, I'm Captain Crafted. I'm here to bring you beer. That's Captain, C-R-A-F-T''D. Why? Because there's no E, just a D, as in deliver, because Captain Crafted delivers.
That's right, the Crafted Beer Store in Redlands is now open for business with great prices and deliveries of your favorite beer, wine, spirits, water, ice, and mixers. Did I mention their great prices? That's CRAFTDBEER store.com or Fred Crafted Beer Store on Facebook.com. Make it easy. Google Redlands Beer Delivery. Look for Crafted Beer.
Crafted Beer Store in Redlands is now open for business, and I'm here to deliver.
We had a flood of veterans coming home and ending up homeless.
Retired Marine Jeff Brighton from Redlands.
When James Ramos got involved, everything changed. As county supervisor, James has found housing for homeless veterans, helping hundreds of local vets get the shelter and support they needed to get back on their feet.
James Ramos worked across party lines to balance the county budget while doing more to help local veterans attack the homeless crisis and expand career and skills training.
James has been instrumental in helping obtain funding for programs that support veterans. James is very passionate when he takes on a cause. It's not for political gain, it's because he truly believes it. I believe that James is going to continue to fight for the veterans and ensure that the resources are available to them that they need. James Ramos has always stood with veterans. That's why veterans like me are standing with James Ramos for Assembly.
Paid for by James Ramos for Assembly 2018.
Are you or a loved one suffering from addiction? You're not alone. There is help, and people are getting help every day. Call Sheer Recovery now at 888-254-6801. That's 888-254-6801. Or go to sheerrecovery.com, spelled S-H-E-E-R, recovery.com. If you have insurance through work or family, your treatment may be covered at little or no cost to you. Plus, you can't lose your job if you decide to seek help. Sheer Recovery offers all levels of treatment. We understand what you're going through and know how to help. Make the best decision of your life and call Sheer Recovery now, spelled S-H-E-E-R. The number is 888-254-6801. That's 888-254-6801. The start of a better life begins here.
KCAA, where every day is a great day.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. So excited to welcome to the show John Schutler. Schutler. We'll ask him to correct us. He's written a new book called Liberated Spirits. Two women who battled over prohibition traces the arc of the era through the two extraordinary women who were ahead of their time. Wealthy socialite Pauline Sabin and Assistant Attorney General Mabel Willebrandt. So John Schutler has been conducting historical research and writing on a variety of topics for clients ranging from small Native communities to the largest corporations in the world for more than 25 years. After growing up in California and South Dakota, he received his BA in history from Montana State University and an MA from the University of Montana. A friendship formed with Hugh Ambrose, his co-author, during graduate school, and brought him the privilege of working on Liberated Spirits. John lives in Colorado with his wife and 3 children. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. And it is Schutler.
It is Schutler. Forgive me.
No worries.
So, we forget, I think, in our culture that at one time, just drinking alcohol was a big debate. I mean, we have the marijuana debate going on now, but alcohol was a big thing back in the day.
Very big, and obviously big enough to have produced an amendment to restrict its use and availability. Because it was very prominent, not just in American society generally, but in American politics and affecting American politics, and that had a lot to do with how it came to be a law.
So tell us about what prompted you to write on this topic in particular.
Well, it started with Hugh Ambrose, and he had come across a story of a gentleman who had served sort of 2 roles. He had been a rum runner in the Prohibition era, but later had become an employee, a contractor of the federal government, assisting in efforts during World War II. And he thought he was an interesting character, and he was, but he also proved to have too many faults for a book. But the idea of sort of this dual persona of a person who participated obviously in a criminal enterprise but didn't see himself as a criminal sort of drove further research to try and locate the kinds of characters who could exemplify what that era was about.
So the 2 women on both sides of this this argument or this effort, Pauline Sabin and Mabel Willebrandt, talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing, and unfortunately, very little known. But Mabel Willebrandt, who was from Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles area, was placed in the role of the Assistant Attorney General of the United States with the primary purpose of enforcing prohibition. And she was selected, obviously, for her intelligence and her legal skills, but also because she was a woman. Prohibition had always been seen as a woman's issue, and so they thought that a woman should be in charge of it and more importantly, responsible for it. Its fate would rest in women's hands. If they wanted it, they were going to have to prove its value and worth. And then Pauline Sabin was a wealthy New York socialite who had had very little involvement in politics, though her family had, who initially supports prohibition, but then comes to see that, its restrictions on personal liberties were more than she could stomach, I guess you could say, and decides to lead an effort to get it repealed and get it banished from American politics and law.
So was Mabel Willebrandt set up to fail?
That is a great question. I don't think so. I think, what failed was, for her and for many people, is that I think the people who passed and ratified prohibition into existence, and Mabel Willebrandt believed this as well, is that, if people wanted it, that they would therefore support the law in terms of, there would be almost a sort of a community policing of prohibition and community support in sufficient numbers. I think they believed that once saloons were gone, because saloons wouldn't be able to obtain liquor anymore, at least not operating openly, that communities would support that, and states and their law enforcement agencies would support it. And that just obviously did not happen. So I wouldn't say she was set up to fail. There was just an expectation of who would end up supporting her and how the law would be supported that did not come to fruition.
So before Prohibition happened, I mean, I have this impression that alcoholism must have been at an all-time high because, alcohol has been with humankind for as long as anyone can remember. And so was it that people were falling down drunk in the streets? Were men not coming home to their wives? What was happening?
Yes, both of those things. And there was a third element that drove it as well, is there's this corrupting influence of the saloon that is often talked about, and the saloon served as polling and voting stations up until Prohibition in many urban areas. And so certain politicians, particularly from the Republican side of the aisle, deeply opposed it because the democratic machinery in most cities would go into these saloons and essentially bribe through drink, many of their voters, and then just send them to the end of the bar to vote. And so I think that was part of it. But drinking was much higher. I mean, the levels, some estimates are hard to come by. Statistical evidence isn't as freely available for the time period, but most estimates suggest that prior to Prohibition, the rates of drinking were at a level that we didn't reach again until the early 70s. So Prohibition really did curb that massive influence, and we've never reached the levels that were prevalent in the 1890s and early 20th century.
So what are the lessons to be learned from all of this? I mean, people mention the Prohibition era when talking about, marijuana legalization. It's like it didn't work in Prohibition. Why would, criminalization work now, or it's not working? What are the lessons to be taken from all of this?
Well, obviously, the obvious lesson that everyone points to is that you can't legislate or put into law, sort of what would be termed moralizing influences. And that's certainly part of it, but I think, part of that also, especially coming from Pauline's side, is, if you are going to attempt those kinds of things, it can only be with the full support of the community, and the community is your neighborhood, your city, your state, your federal government. I'm not advocating, those kinds of laws, but I think, the big one is certainly you cannot legislate into being moralizing influences. But at the same time, the other lesson that comes out of all of this is that, new political groups and entities, in this case women, do gain a foothold by such things. And to me, that's the real sort of, end result or lesson, is that Prohibition served as this vehicle for women to become fully engaged, regardless of which side of the debate they fell on, fully engaged in the political process.
So we are completely out of time. This has been terrific. Tell everybody how they can follow you on social media.
The best place is to go to hughambros.com. There's a page with all kinds of great videos and photographs and additional stories on all of the characters involved.
Well, John Schutler, right? Shuttler. I did it again. John Shuttler, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody needs to go out and get the book, Liberated Spirits, Two Women Who Battled Over Prohibition. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll be right back.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, K292FQ Riverside, and K293CF Moreno Valley.
NBC News Radio, I'm Lisa Carter. President Trump says even seeing the damage from Hurricane Michael firsthand, the devastation is hard to believe. Trump visited storm damage areas of Florida and Georgia yesterday. He pledged the federal government will do everything it can to help the recovery effort. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in Saudi Arabia searching for answers about the disappearance of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi Arabia has denied any involvement in the journalist's October 2nd disappearance at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul.
But NBC News has learned from 3 sources that Saudi leaders are now discussing a plan to admit Khashoggi was killed there. One says it was during an interrogation that went wrong.
NBC's Bill Neely. And climate change could drive up beer prices. New study says droughts and higher temperatures caused by climate change will reduce the amount of barley being produced. That would limit the beer supply and raise the price. Lisa Carter, NBC News Radio.
It's time for traffic on KCAA. I'm Erin Brinker. In Big Bear Lake, there's a full closure. Highway 18 is closed between Big Bear Dam and Snow Valley until about 7 a.m., so about another 30 minutes. In Ontario, on the 15th southbound approaching Harupa Street, a wreck remains along the right shoulder. This has been your traffic report on KCAA. We are the stations that leave no listener behind. I'm Erin Brinker.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm Alvin Washington.
A red flag warning for the area today. Sunshine on a high of 79 with strong winds. Clear later this evening, a low 55. For Wednesday, sunshine, a high of 82. Clear on Wednesday night. I'm Alvin Washington, broadcasting live from the Tri-City Center at the 10 and 210 freeways. We are the trifecta of talk in Southern California. KCAA 102.3 FM, Riverside, 106.5 FM, Redlands, and the Legacy, 1050 AM, Loma Linda, San Bernardino.
KCAA Radio is proud to announce that the Tri-City Center in Redlands is our new home. We're fortunate to be located among some of the best businesses in the region. Among our neighbors are Ray Chiropractic, Brace Connection Orthodontist, Pain Solutions Medical Massage, Rent-A-Center, MVP Staffing Agency, Jenny Craig, Salon Centric, and many more. The Tri-City Shopping Center is located just off the I-10 between Alabama and the Tennessee exits in Redlands. The Tri-City Center is the mall with the heart. Drivers, when it's time to visit the DMV, avoid the long lines and save time by calling toll-free 833-DMV-LINE. That's 833-DMV-5463.
KCAA.
It's getting to the point where I'm no fun anymore. I am sorry. Sometimes it hurts so badly I must cry out loud. I am low.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. So now it's time for the news of the day. Tobin, take it.
Yeah, so Temecula man was just found guilty of a road rage attack where he stabbed a guy to death and then filmed it as the guy was dying. And I don't remember this happening. I mean, this is one of those stories that the headline just kind of shocked me, right? So let me give you the background. A jury on Monday convicted a Temecula man of fatally stabbing a teen after picking a fight with him last year in a Walmart parking lot, then going on to threaten the victim's girlfriend and then film his dying moments on a cell phone, prosecutors said. James Beckham Fortney, 41 years old, was found guilty of second-degree murder with an enhancement of using a knife and one count of making criminal threats in the November 29, 2017 incident that was allegedly sparked by a road rage confrontation. Fortney started the fight outside the Superstore's location on Temecula Parkway that eventually ended in 19-year-old Kevin Rodriguez's death, officials said. Rodriguez, a freelance videographer from Murrieta, was headed to the Walmart that day to pick up things for his father's belated birthday dinner with the family. The teen was with his girlfriend of 3 years, according to Atticus Rodriguez, the victim's father. She later told the family Fortney looked as if stalled traffic had been giving him anxiety when he nearly hit Kevin's car. Kevin became upset, but Fortney even more so. According to the DA's office, Fortney grabbed the much smaller Rodriguez by the throat, and Rodriguez began to fight back in self-defense. As the two men paused in the struggle, standing a few feet away from each other, Fortney allegedly produced a 6-inch folding knife, lunged at Rodriguez, stabbing him in the chest. Rodriguez's girlfriend then rushed toward the attacker, who allegedly told her, "You're next." Kevin's mother, Tracy Rodriguez, told KTLA that his girlfriend held him in her arms as he bled profusely. He really loved his girlfriend, she said, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for her to have to go through that, holding him the way she did, and I'm going to be there for her. While other witnesses called 911 and began performing life-saving measures, Fortney, the guy who just stabbed him, took out his cell phone and began recording the victim's dying moments, according to prosecutors. Right?
What a monster.
Yeah. Defendant later helped administer aid, according to the officials. Rodriguez was taken to a nearby hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. The teen's parents said that he was a loving son and brother who had a large circle of friends and regularly attended church. He was also adventurous and enjoyed recording stunts to share on his social media. His Instagram account, Aaron, had more than 37,000 followers about the time of his death.
Wow.
Fortney is scheduled to be sentenced on November 19th at the Southwest Justice Center, and he faces a maximum possible sentence of 16 years and 8 months up to life in prison.
So 16 years and 8 months, he'll serve maybe half?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they never serve the full amount. Yeah, very disturbing. You know, the story I think is disturbing because I've seen a lot of road rage incidents lately. There's a lot more cars on the freeway these days. One of the effects of the booming economy, right, with all these trucks, and things happen. You know, people are making decisions quickly, cutting people off. You know, little fender benders are happening, and if people are already in a bad mood and having a bad day, you just never know what's going to set someone off, and it could turn violent. You know, and I think of that story we covered. I think it was up in Sacramento maybe a month ago, where the two guys got into a little fender bender on the freeway and got into pulled over on the side of the freeway, got in a fist fight, and one guy killed the other guy.
Yes. Or the guy who also in the Sacramento area, he hit somebody, then he backed up and he hit them again, and he backed up over and over again. And actually, something similar happened to a friend of ours who was in a guy hit her. She was stopped. A guy hit her and then backed up and rammed her again.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What the heck, man?"
Right. And she was with her kids, right?
She was with her kids. Her kids were in the car.
Scary.
That's very, very scary.
Yeah. You know, my heart goes out to these families, and you know, this guy, you know, in the one hand, you're thinking, okay, he's not in his right mind, you know, and they give him second degree, and I'm sure it's because this was not a pre-planned thing, but the outcome of it,
he made a decision to take the life of another person.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it was second degree. I really don't.
Yeah.
He made a decision to take the life of another person over an automobile disagreement, like a traffic disagreement.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. And it sounds like they didn't even have like major accident. Like maybe it was a near miss kind of a situation. So it wasn't like, you know, your car's damaged, my car's damaged, it's going to cost you money, or we have to deal with insurance. It sounds like there was just a near miss situation that led to, you know, frustration and the confrontation.
So I think the moral of the story is if somebody comes at you like that, you stay in your car with the doors locked and you call 911.
Yeah.
Because you never know what that other person's capable of.
No, exactly.
I don't care how mad you are. I don't care. You stay in that car till you've assessed the situation and call 911 if you feel threatened.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was just watching a video earlier that talked about how, you know, one of the biggest fears that men have is showing weakness, right? And so a lot of guys in that situation feel like that if they don't stand up and, you know, fight back or whatever, that somehow this will bring shame on them, right? And they can't handle that shame, so they have to stand up, and so they put their lives at risk. It's not worth it.
No, it's not. And here's the reality, too. If it ended up in an altercation, say you ended up in a fight and you were the stronger guy, guess who gets in trouble?
You do.
Because the cops are going to be engaged. They're going to be engaged.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to call 911 because you're out in public. And so which side of that do you want to be on?
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
And
I'm here to tell you no, it's not.
And we don't live in a world where it's just you can just count on it just being a little, you know, fist fight or whatever. And even a fist fight can be deadly, you know.
Especially if it's in traffic.
Yeah. But you know, you never know what someone's carrying, you know, knife, gun, whatever. And there's a lot of people out there who are willing to go next level. You know, you think you think this is just going to be a little thing, and before you know it, you know, you're at number 11 on the dial.
Well, yeah, exactly. This monster who killed this kid, he needs to be in jail forever.
Yeah.
Not 16 years and 8 months, but will really be 8 years and 4 months. And honestly, he'll probably get out before then because our governor doesn't like holding criminals.
No.
And I know he won't be governor then, but still.
It'll be interesting to see if they give this guy life in prison. And even life in prison in California, I don't think really is life.
It's not life.
Yeah.
He took the life of another. He's forfeited his life. He's forfeited his right to breathe our air, as far as I'm concerned.
So he was 19 years old. I think at a minimum he has to serve 19 years.
At a minimum.
Right. I mean, that should be, there's a new law. You know?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and take a break. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We will be right back.
Now, here's a new concept: digital network advertising, where businesses display your ad inside their building. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, your company is going to thrive with digital network advertising. Choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your business ad or logo is rotated multiple times an hour inside local businesses where people will discover your company. Digital network advertising, DNA, a novel way to be seen and remembered. Digital network advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call in the 909 area 222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293 for digital network advertising. One last time, digital network advertising, 909-222-9293.
Attention business professionals, since 2006, the Inland Empire's largest mixer has been bringing together success-minded businessmen and women for an evening of making new connections that help grow businesses. Don't miss this opportunity to meet your next client during the 2018 Inland Empire's largest mixer on Tuesday, November 13th from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Riverside Convention Center. The IE Mixer happens only once a year. For more information, visit iemixer.com. That's iemixer.com. Inland Empire's largest mixer, where business meets business.
Visit your local Baker's drive-thru restaurant this month and get an Easter Seals Safe Halloween booklet for just $1. You'll receive over $400 in coupons and make a life-changing difference in the lives of kids and adults with disabilities in the Inland Empire. 100% of the proceeds support Easter Seals services in your community. No trick. Learn more at easterseals.com/Southern Cal.
Here's Replete Vegan Skincare founder Elizabeth Thoreau.
Investing in your beauty is investing in quality of your life. The secret is in Replete Spring Serum Complex. It puts elasticity back in your jawline contour for completely remodeling the effects of winter. It improves firmness. It gets rid of sagging and wrinkles. And it puts the smoothness, radiance, and freshness you want in a spring day.
RepleteSkincare.com for your skin to look and feel its best.
KCAA, where every day is a great day.
I said she put me down, I bet I'd do it in my head. Come in late at night and in the morning I just lay in bed.
Welcome back. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are on The Brink, the morning show on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and FM 102.3. Sears, we've been talking about Sears for years.
Yes, we have.
And looks like they're heading into bankruptcy. And it's Chapter 11. It's not 13. They're not going to close all of their stores, but they're going to close a lot. It has been an abysmally managed company for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about when I was growing up, and Sears is where you went for a lot of your major purchases,
If you had an appliance.
I think all of our appliances basically came from Sears.
If you wanted to buy a lawnmower.
Yeah.
If you, anything like that. And then, remember, they had this is the softer side of Sears ad campaign. I think that was late 80s, early 90s, when they reminded people that, no, this is a full department store. And it was an appeal to women to start shopping for, things with their home and for clothing and for that sort of thing. And for whatever reason, that actually was a renaissance for them. It was, women were like, oh yeah, I could go to Sears. It's not just tools. I could go and buy, shop for everything that I need. But then the clothes weren't very cute.
No.
And the stuff that they had, their buyers weren't very good, I'm guessing. Because people, it got them into the store, but nothing brought them back.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about if you go into a Sears now and the clothing racks are too close together, there's way too much clothes on the racks, and they don't have enough employees to clean up. And so you see stuff sort of on the floors and piled up, and and so it looks very bargain basement.
Yeah, bargain basement's the right word.
And they you can be a store that has lower prices and draws customers in with your price point without looking trashy. And they somehow fumbled that. They messed that up, and so it's not a place that's particularly appealing to shop at. you know?
Well, and I don't know that they quite knew how to position themselves because Walmart really took over that space of, being the low-cost, low-cost retailer, where you could kind of go and buy everything. And Walmart was in all the small towns, all the rural towns. And so I don't know that that Sears did a good job of redefining themselves.
Yeah.
And certainly and we've talked about this during the time when the internet shopping became the way people were going, they should have embraced that. They already had an infrastructure. They've been doing catalog sales for 100 years, but they didn't.
Yeah, you'd think that they would have outdone Amazon better than Amazon because they were already used to shipping stuff all over the place for people buying stuff from the catalog.
Exactly.
And
they at least had a foundational infrastructure for managing that.
But for whatever reason, they got overtaken on a whole bunch of fronts. You think about how Walmart basically outdid them in terms of logistics, and supply chain management, and so Sears had all of these advantages and just sort of dropped the ball in area after area. And your hope is that they're able to sort of redefine themselves and get back to basics and come back so they don't completely go away, right? Because it is that iconic brand.
Yeah. Well, they need good leadership. I mean, honestly, it comes down to who's your coach.
Yeah.
If you have a lousy coach, your team's not going to win. And they've just not hired, their board has not hired good coaches. Clearly.
No, I agree. Do you know if the local Sears is closing or no? Or are they going to stick around in our area?
So they're of course it's Sears and Kmart,
Yeah.
and I know that there's a Riverside Kmart and an Ontario Kmart that are closing, but I don't know about the local Sears here. I'm not sure. I have not heard about that. And those stores will be announced, in the coming weeks.
Yeah. Well, I did see some people online basically saying, hey, go shop at our local Sears, and that would help keep our Sears, So people are sort of trying to talk it up that if we can, if you like your Sears and you want to keep it here, now's your time to go shop there and say, hey, this is one that people go to. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Although, it's probably a day late and $1 short.
Yeah, probably.
So I want to talk about typhus. Well, the LA Times and many, many others have been running stories about the typhus outbreak on Skid Row and in among the homeless population in Los Angeles. And typhus is carried by fleas, right?
Okay.
And so, this buildup of waste and filth attracts rats. And what do rats have? Fleas. And what do the fleas have? Typhus. And so there was a gentleman in San Marino. He had typhus symptoms, and it looked like the flu. And he was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And finally, he went to the emergency room and wouldn't leave because he said something's wrong. His fever was 103 degrees. He was riddled with aches, chills, and extreme weakness. He said that he had chills where his body would shake from his waist to his head. This is in an interview on Monday, October 15th. Doctors told him he had the flu, and after nearly 3 weeks without any recovery, his wife called a priest. Apparently, he looked so bad that the priest gave him last rites.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So in the end, he decided he didn't just have the flu. He called the fire department, and this time he was taken by paramedics from his San Marino home, which is in the Pasadena area, to a local hospital emergency room where, after much persuasion, he was admitted. What may have saved his life was, ironically, his insurance company, Blue Shield 65 Plus HMO, which also authorized his visit to Healthcare Partners Medical Group's infectious disease specialist, Dr. Paul Nieberg of Pasadena. Nieberg diagnosed Sachs with the flea-borne typhus. Sachs is one of about 60 reported people who have contracted flea-borne typhus this year, and this is an outbreak that reflects an increasing trend in typhus cases since 2009. The number of cases have risen from 47 in 2016 to 67 in 2017. The recent outbreak includes cases among homeless populations in downtown Los Angeles. Pasadena's health department reported 20 cases so far this year, an elevated level as compared to 1 to 5 cases normally reported each year. Long Beach has also reported an unusually high number, 12 typhus cases. Pasadena and Long Beach are separate from the county health department figures. So the disease, also known as murine typhus, masks with flu-like symptoms, making it difficult to diagnose. So when Nieberg reported the case, Sachs got a call from the LA County Department of Public Health, who interviewed him about his exposure to an infected flea. Fleas containing certain bacteria that can cause the disease are carried by rats, feral cats, and possums. So he basically said that he was out in his garden a lot. So he was, doing a lot of gardening, and of course, fleas live outdoors. He said he doesn't remember getting bitten, but he's outside a lot. So after spending 3 days at one hospital, he was transferred to USC Verdugo Hills Hospital in Glendale, where he was given a 10-day dose of antibiotics. He was kept under close watch for 14 days until he was well enough to be released back to his San Marino home. So from mid-April, when the flea infected him, until June 1st, when he was released from the hospital, he'd lost 20 pounds, and he's 81.
Wow.
And he went from a senior citizen who traveled, visited his grandkids, and enjoyed an active life to an invalid on death's door. So he's still receiving treatment, physical therapy to strengthen his leg muscles, and he's about 75% recovered.
So, I have not seen yet any reported cases out here in the Inland Empire. But I will tell you that I've been doing these cleanups with We Are the Change on Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm. In the city of San Bernardino.
In the city of San Bernardino. And, a lot of the areas that we're cleaning up are dump sites and or homeless sites where, people have basically are living in this same kind of filth and squalor that we're describing. And we've seen rats. We've seen them in these piles of garbage and stuff that these folks, have just sort of accumulated. And you can't help but think that maybe this is coming our way too, right? I mean, if it's spreading, it's...
Well, and think about
just a matter of time.
Yeah, the fleas can travel. Lots of people have dogs with them all the time. Lots of people have, they travel in different areas. If you work in Los Angeles and you take the train home, it's entirely possible that somebody could pick up one of the fleas that were on your body that without you even knowing it. I mean, this is how epidemics travel, right? I mean, this is how these diseases travel. And so, I mean, the point of the article really, and it says this at the end, is Mr. Sachs wanted to let people know what the symptoms were so that maybe somebody else could get treatment sooner than he got it.
Yeah.
Because people clearly, they didn't know what they had. They didn't know what they had.
Yeah. Well, according to a news source I'm reading, Los Angeles Mayor Garcetti has set aside another $300,000 to fortify trash pickup, sidewalk washing, and street cleaning in those Skid Row neighborhoods that house about 2,000 people that are living outdoors, specifically in response to the rats, trash, and the typhus. And so, the city is attempting to fix this, but it's a challenging problem when you have that large number of homeless people living in such a small, small area.
And then it's not just typhus. I mean, we're at what point? Because this is open sewage we're talking about that is on these streets. San Francisco is dealing with the same thing. We saw a pretty significant outbreak of hepatitis A up and down the state.
Yep.
I think it started in San Diego. And so, we're just going to have one public health issue after another. And at what point do our city officials, people got to put their heads together and try to figure out something different? And I don't know what that answer is. I don't know what the answer is for dealing with this problem. People, they've tried, in many places, they've tried opening up special public restrooms. The problem is they are trashed so much, they have to be locked up.
Yeah. So our Rotary Club, our Rotary District, is working on a larger project. They've already got one approved in Riverside, but they're making a presentation here in San Bernardino this week about doing tiny houses, right? And this helps because now you get these people out off the street. You give them a way to organize their stuff, get some level of cleanliness and organization. The problem is most of those tiny houses do not have restrooms, so they have they have to go to.
There'll be a common restroom.
There'll be a common restroom nearby. Yeah, but the great thing about this project that Rotary's doing is that they're going to have complete wraparound services that would go along with these houses. So it's not just saying here's a place for you to stay, but we're also going to get you the social services, the medical attention, the other things that you're going to need that will come to you. So if you're living here in these tiny houses, we're going to provide you with more than just, a place to stay. which I love. I love that model, and I love that Rotary's involved.
I do too, and of course, it's taking, I'm sure, county dollars and that
Yep.
sort of thing,
Oh, yeah.
to pay for all those wraparound services.
Oh, yeah.
So here at the end of our program today, I want to talk about this Riverside Unified Teachers Aide. He was accused of sexual abuse, and he was left unsupervised even after a warning from the state. And I, obviously you're a teacher. Many of our friends are teachers, and usually if except, we've seen not the case in Redlands, but if there's a whiff of this thing going on, that teacher is moved out of the classroom and, an investigation is started.
Yes.
Like right then. But apparently, this aide was accused of molesting 4 girls at a Riverside elementary school. He was not supervised by a teacher even after state auditors warned the school district that it was violating state law, according to an attorney representing the students in a civil lawsuit. Morgan Stewart, who represents 3 of the 4 girls alleging they were molested by a tech aide, Fernando Figueroa, also alleges in a motion filed Friday in Riverside Superior Court that a school district psychologist destroyed notes from interviews she had with the Liberty Elementary School students.
Oh, that's just...
that psychologist should lose her license.
Yeah, no, that is so wrong and clearly illegal. I think if they're destroying notes and yeah.
So Figueroa is charged with 8 felony counts of child molestation, and in August of 2017 was ordered to stand trial. He's being held on $4 million bail in Banning at the moment. While Stewart alleges in his motion that 11 additional victims have come forward since Figueroa was arrested and charged, the Riverside County DA's office has not filed any additional charges against him. So we'll be watching this move forward.
Yeah.
Because we're out of time this morning, but we'll be watching this move forward.
Yeah. Another disturbing story.
It just makes me angry. It just makes me so angry. So with that, it's time for the end of our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Erin Brinker.
And I'm Tobin Brinker.
And we are On the Brink, the morning show on KCAA. We'll see you tomorrow.